This video is brought to you by the Wellness Investors. The Wellness Investors are a collective of individuals with uniquely diverse backgrounds. Our goal is to inspire, motivate, and entertain. Visit thewellnessinvestors.com and start enhancing your life, one sector at a time.
Hello and welcome to the Wellness Investors. I'm joined here by Wack from Wack's World and many of the other things that we're involved in. You know, the Wellness Investors, I get asked about that a lot because I think people are starting to see it a whole bunch. And really what it is, you know, the tagline is in trying to improve or trying to enhance your life one sector at a time. And one of those sectors that I think is really important is career and job. You know, even like finance and some other things that we're going to eventually get into, some small business stuff that we're really not only passionate about, we have some involvement in and a little bit of experience in. The other day, I posted an audio blog that I wrote, and it was about Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is one of my idols, and he's somebody I look up to, and I love the simplicity of his style. I love the simplicity of his investing strategy, and he is the owner or one of the owners and heavily involved in many, many major companies, things that we use on a daily basis. Coca-Cola, Duracell batteries, Fruit of the Loom underwear. But all those big businesses, they didn't get that way by chance. Those big businesses started out as small businesses and they were managed effectively. Somebody was at the helm and either put the right people in place to make them become bigger businesses, but all the businesses that we know and love and we use on a daily, the Apples, the McDonald's, the Walmarts, they were all small businesses at one time. And how they got from point A to B is sort of what we're talking about here today.
Absolutely. Leadership is one of the make or break items, not only for a business, but for you as an employee in your career. You know, they say that many people don't quit their company, they quit their manager. And there might be reports that say that's not true, that people leave for better working conditions and more pay and all that stuff. But unless that just fell in their lap, they were looking already. So I really do feel this way. I know you may have been in the situation, and maybe I have before in my life, where I didn't think my manager was either very good or wasn't helping me or I could do better or something. And so now I'm going to hopefully help you do something about it.
And this is something you have experience with, right? You've helped facilitate new managers, and you've been a manager at points in your life, and you definitely have some experience with as far as like learning the ins and outs of what that means to be an effective and efficient leader, but also probably making some mistakes along the way.
Oh, absolutely. I've made a ton of mistakes. And unfortunately for me, I always have to do it the hard way. I can't learn from anybody else. It seems like I have to experience it myself.
Right. Know? Don't tell me, show me kind of thing.
Yeah, right. But then when I do, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what they were trying to for me to avoid, you know. But, you know, first of all, I must state that I have no credentials, no degree, no certifications. I'm not claiming to be an expert. So listen at your own risk, but thank you for listening. My whole purpose here in doing this and kind of organizing this is to let's try to learn together. Let's do community learning. Let's all grow together. And when you stop growing, I guess you're just saying I'm happy with where I'm at and I don't want anything else for my life. I don't want to advance my career. I don't want, you know, my relationships to improve. I don't need anything else. So I'm really a big proponent to continual growth. We always want to try to get better.
And there are people like that. I know people in my life, and there are people that are just happy with clocking in from the 9 to 5, and they're okay with that, and that's okay. You need those people as a leader. And those people are just as important to the company as anything else. It might not feel like that way sometimes. They might not feel that influence on the company, and maybe they don't have that much influence on the company. But I think as a leader and as a manager, it's important for you to be able to show that they are important.
Yes, and you know, depending on the size of your organization and things, but you need all those different types of people. We need people with different skills to make a good team. And you know, I do need the people that are gonna, I've heard it referred to as the worker bees. Okay, they're gonna come in every day. They're gonna put their 40 hours in. They're going to do a good job, and they're gonna go home and be satisfied. And I need some of those people on my team, but I also need the people that want to take my job on my team. Because if I don't, then I'm not going to advance. Maybe I won't have somebody to replace me. I'm not helping them to grow, so that I'm not doing my job as a manager.
And so you don't claim to be an expert, nor do I. But I will say this, just knowing you as I do in my own story, I was never one of those people that was complacent with just being a 9 to 5 kind of guy. I know that when you're not one of those people, it kind of adds some additional stress in your life and some additional work for sure, right? You're not a 9 to 5 and you clock out and your job stays at your job. When you are in positions where you are leading people, right? You are on call, maybe even 24/7. But I was never content with just being a 9 to 5 type guy. Now, there's been times in my life where I've been that. And maybe it worked better for me to be that way at that time. But I always try to look towards the future. And a lot of the wellness investors type stuff is looking through that lens of we're trying to better our lives one way or the other.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't have the degree or the credentials, but what I do have is a lot of formal and informal training. You know, I've worked in a plant environment. I've worked in a warehouse distribution environment. I've worked in an office environment. I've been a leader or not a leader in all those environments. What I have is a little bit of experience. You know, I worked at my last company for 25 years. I was a department leader hire 22 of those 25 years. And so I've had to grow. I've had to learn. I've gotten better at it over time. And, you know, at first, I didn't know what I was doing, and no one was there to tell me about how to transition between worker bee and the queen bee, right? They say that the manager is oftentimes the least trained person in the company because they train you how to make the product. They don't train you how to lead people in a lot of companies. And so I'm hoping that we can, you know, use this to fill a gap that, you know, maybe somebody will learn something from this that will help them through something in their experience, something in their company, something in their personal lives. And we can help them maybe learn either resources to find to solve that problem or to get past it, or maybe we can give you something to help you with that.
We're talking about becoming maybe even middle management or getting promoted to a manager position or a leadership type role within the company or within any company. Do you feel that sometimes that good worker bees, the ones that kind of outshine maybe some of the others, get promoted to that position just because they are good at what they currently do? It doesn't always necessarily mean that they're going to be good at the next level.
Exactly. You have to change your whole mindset from becoming a peer with your coworkers to becoming a leader or supervisor of your coworkers. A good company has leaders at every level of the organization. You might not have the title of being a leader, but you're still the go-to person for the people around you, for the people in your department, for your team. And so you're really taking on a leadership capacity, even though you're maybe not getting credited with it or have the title that references that.
So you mentioned that, and I've actually had some personal experience of that where maybe I got promoted and my friends didn't.
Yes. Yeah. So that's really hard. You know, you might be working in a team of people, and while I'm a peer with those people, I want to rise above them. I want to be recognized. I want to be the one that when that job comes up, they're going to look to fill that promotion. And then if I do that, I have a previous relationship with those people I just worked with. Maybe we've been good buddies for a long time. Maybe we don't like each other. Maybe it's somebody I dated before, and now I'm the supervisor or the leader over them. So you no longer can try to rise above them anymore. That's where your mindset has to change. You are no longer an independent contractor looking for that job. You are now, your success is 100% based on your team success and the growth of the employees that you're supervising.
So when that type of situation does occur, sometimes there's some feelings that are involved, right? Because you still want to be able to manage being a person's friend. Yes. And maybe even some of those people helped get you to that position.
Sure.
And they've been a huge factor in some of the success you've had at that position that you were at before you got promoted. What would you recommend for somebody trying to deal with those types of outside social circles or social elements to getting a position over your friends? Is it something where you need to kind of come in and prove that you have the authority now? You know, I've seen people do that before, but I'm not sure how effective that might be.
But yeah, when you have to tell somebody whether it's that you're smart or that you're funny or that you're the leader, everything is wrong already.
Usually not the case.
Right.
I'm the leader. Okay.
Yeah.
I see you got that shirt on there that says leader.
Yeah. But true leaders, you don't need to tell them. They're going to know that to follow you. You're going to make the right decision or even a decision. Okay. You're going to be able to help them grow as an employee in the company as well. And they're going to see that. number one thing to be a good leader and to get people to follow you is you have to have their best interest in mind, and they have to believe that. There has to be that trust there. If you don't have that, it's not going to be successful. That is one of the keys to being a good leader.
And that's kind of one of those things where they go back to the old saying of "don't tell me, show me" kind of thing, right? They always make the joke that we're from Missouri, so we're the show me state. Leadership isn't something like you said, like we kind of joked about, where like I put a shirt on and now I'm the leader and I'm the manager or whatever. You know, you might have gotten a role that's different, but that doesn't mean people are going to follow you, and especially follow you when sometimes their beliefs aren't the same as yours, or their vision isn't the same as yours.
Yes. I remember when my daughter was on America's Got Talent, and there was Jason Lowry at the radio station said, "Hey, I want to call you up and I want to have a little interview while you guys are in New York." And I agreed to that. And on the first one, he said, "Yeah, I got a big wig here from this company." And I said, "Oh no, don't call me that." Okay. I have a job just like everyone else. My job might be different than theirs, but I am no more of a contributor than that doer. It's just my role is different from theirs. And so, and really being humble, you know, one of the first things in management and leading people is now you no longer take any of the credit and you take 100% of the blame. Okay. No matter what it is, it doesn't matter if you didn't touch it. It doesn't matter. You are responsible for it, and when it goes wrong, that's your fault. Okay, but when it goes right, it's the team that pulled together that did it every single time.
So we're both sports fans, and when you're talking about that, I think about the head coach where the kicker misses the extra point or misses the overtime field goal that he should have made, that he would have made 99 out of 100 times, but he missed it. And the coach on the press conference afterwards goes, "It was a team loss," or that loss was on me, when actually it was on the kicker, right?
Right.
If the kicker would have made that, the outcome would have been very different. But there's some humility to that. And I think that goes a long way with the team, right? Not pointing fingers, not taking the credit when credit is sometimes due, or sometimes clear who needs to be deserving of the credit, but having some humility with what's perceived by other people.
Absolutely. I like to use the analogy of, you know, last year I was the third baseman of the St. Louis Cardinals, and now I've been hired as the manager. Well, I no longer get a hit. I no longer play the field. I no longer pitch. Everyone else is doing that. What my job is to get the right talent together, to put them in the right situations where they can succeed, to give them the right tools and the right knowledge to be successful. And then if the team wins the World Series, I might get to keep my job, or maybe I'll even get promoted. Okay. If the team, you know, fails to make the playoffs, I'm at risk of being fired. And that's how it should be. If I can't pull the team together, or I don't have the capacity, or I don't have the know-how or something to make us successful, and whether it's the company's goals or you know, having our team work together and being efficient and effective and pulling for each other, if those things don't work, that's the manager's fault.
And that'd be pretty tough to do, I imagine, right? To have that humility, to take blame when there's blame maybe being placed on the team, and to shy away from the acclaim.
That's the whole mindset that you have to change. You have to know that you no longer can succeed without the rest of the team. And you're going to ask the team at times to go the extra mile, to do something extra for you. You're going to ask them to come in on the weekend and work overtime and spend time away from their family. You're going to ask them to, while you're here, I want you working as hard as you can and get producing as much as you can, and stay off your phone and do all this stuff. Well, that person has to decide to do that. Are you going to do that for somebody you don't care for, that you don't like, that you don't think is out for your best interest? Well, no, I'm going to go back to that. I'm putting my 40 hours in and getting a paycheck, and I might be looking for another job.
So I'm bringing up this quote because you're the one who actually showed me this quote, but it's one, if I don't have tattoos, but if I had tattoos, like motivational tattoos, this would be one of them. And it's from a Jay-Z lyric, believe it or not. But he says in one of his songs, I forget which song it even was, but he says, "I don't ask anything from anyone that I don't demand of myself." And I think that kind of sums up a lot of what we're talking about in just one sentence, right? I don't expect you to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself, right? I'm going to be a team player. I'm going to put team before self-interest. And I don't expect you to do that if I'm not doing that as well.
Or I'll go the extra mile, and I can't ask you to do it if I won't do it as well.
Or if you're the guy, and we've had these managers before, I'm sure we all have the manager that shows up late all the time because he's the manager. Nobody's coming down on him. But then you get on to me for showing up late. All right, that's not leadership. That's not going to go a long way. Because in the back of my mind, no matter what I tell you or no matter what that conversation, how it goes, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, you don't show up on time. So it must not be that important to you.
You know, I didn't maybe realize this the whole time, but as a leader, you're always being watched, no matter what you do. I remember when I left my company, people came up to me that I had no idea were watching me and said, hey, you've inspired me.
Awesome.
You know, and that really meant a lot to me. And especially because that person maybe wasn't even particularly part of my team. They were just around, you know, and to think that you can have that effect on somebody is it means a lot to me.
It's almost like when you talk about that, it almost reminds me of parenthood in a way, because I can sit there and I have 3 daughters. I can sit there and tell my daughters all day long this, and this, but if they don't see me live it in real life, if I'm not an example for them of honesty and integrity and treating people fairly and not being judgmental, I can tell them, I can sit there and point fingers and tell them that all day long. But if they don't see it in my livelihood, they don't see it in the way I live my day-to-day in and out life every single day, that's not going to hold much weight.
You know, they say, you know, actions speak louder than words, and I believe that 100%. You know, anybody can say anything, but it's really what you do that determines who you are.
Absolutely. Good talk, Wack. We're going to go to a break right now. This is the Wellness Investors. We're trying to enhance and improve your life just like we're trying to enhance and improve our lives as well. So if our stories mean a little something or sound a certain way to you, hopefully you take a little bit from it and you're able to kind of help your life and help your career and your job and how you maybe even look at just life in general with your leadership manager roles and trying to elevate yourself in your career. So we're going to hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be back right after this.
This video is brought to you by The Wellness Investors. Visit thewellnessinvestors.com and start enhancing your life one sector at a time.
Thank you to our sponsor. Welcome back to the Wellness Investors. This is what we're calling the Leadership Series, and this is part 1 of the Leadership Series. We want to just kind of give you a little bit of an introduction, a little bit of our backgrounds. We're here just trying to get better as people, as individuals, and hopefully you can take something from our experiences as well. When we talk about leadership, if you had to pick the number one thing where you would start, maybe your very first lesson on leadership and management in general, where would you start at, Wack?
You have to decide yourself. You have to decide that you're going to be a better leader. And what it's going to take to do that is that you're going to have to do things differently, and they're going to be uncomfortable. If you, knowing me, you know, my whole life, you know, as a relative and growing up, you would think I'm a whole different person at work than I was in my personal life.
I wouldn't recognize you.
You wouldn't recognize me, right? Because in my personal life, it was fine with me to let you take the lead or whatever everybody's happy with, and I'll just go along for the ride. I just want everybody to be happy. I don't care. You know, I might not speak up a lot. I might not be the, you know, the one that takes the lead. But then when I became a leader at my company, I can't be successful that way. I've got to take the lead. That wasn't always natural for me, and it was very difficult at first and uncomfortable and hard, and I gotta be constantly thinking of this. You know, I gotta, you know, once I was told that as I'd walk through the plant or something, and I got a million things going on in my head. I'm thinking about this next meeting and what my department's doing and all this other things, and if I walked by with somebody and didn't say hi to them, they thought I was stuck up. I was too good for them. I wasn't friendly. I mean, just a minor thing like that is I had to, even though it wasn't what I wanted to do, even though I felt it might distract or disrupt my thought pattern, every time I walked by somebody, I had to say hi to them.
So that's interesting to me that you're saying that I wouldn't recognize you at work. So for me, it's different. I consider myself a leader too, although I can turn it off sometimes at work where I feel it's not advantageous to be in that way, but it's hard for me to turn it off. I just feel like I kind of carry that throughout my life, and I have to kind of check myself sometimes where like maybe it's being a little bit too much.
Well, now that you say that, you know, the training that I've received and, you know, all of this that I've researched and looked into and tried out, it's helped me in my personal life. I'm a better person to my friends and family, and I maybe take the lead role more often in my personal life now that I have got the confidence and the knowledge and the know-how of how to be a good leader.
So there's kind of two thoughts about this, where they say leaders are born and then leaders are made.
Leaders are never born.
So you're of the mindset that it takes some work to become a leader.
100%. No one knows how to just do these things. I mean, maybe, they have some capacity to be dominant, or they don't mind taking the lead or that kind of thing. Maybe they're the alpha, or whatever. But to be good at it, that's different than doing it. Many of us just do it. But being good at it is something that you have to hone, that you have to craft, that you have to work on to make it a skill, to make it part of you.
So I got some good news for you. The behavioral science is actually for you on that one.
Hey.
They agree with you on that one. Yep. So I do have an academic background, and that's a lot of what the current master's program that I'm in now is focusing on leadership and management. And they say, for the most part, it's peer-reviewed science agrees that behavioral science says that there are not leaders born. You might have some characteristics that are prominent and that show up more often than not, the dominant, the alpha, and all those types of things. And a lot of it is, being sociable and being able to have good communication and talk well and be likable and charming. But behavior science agrees with you that most effective and efficient and successful leaders are actually made. Now, there might be some characteristics that kind of continue to show up a lot of the time, but it's made. And so it's an intentional thing that happens. And those changes that you're talking about in your life, that's when leadership really kind of start to bloom, is when you decide to become a leader. You can't become a leader without it. You have to decide and make some changes that probably aren't comfortable at times.
Absolutely. And you started this off about talking about some of those companies that grew from a small company to this worldwide, company that everybody knows. And top leadership, I would bet you, is common at all of those companies.
I would agree. Warren Buffett agree with you too. There's stories of him, not even of him, that he puts out. He's a very humble guy from what they say, but that he will walk plants. He will walk, and you will see him where he has involvement with middle management and lower workers, or whatever you want to call it, where he has a face in the business, and that what he's the third or fourth richest person in the world ever, and at times the number one, but he doesn't act like it. He doesn't show it. He can get his hands dirty just as much as anybody.
Yep. And a good leader is going to treat the vice president the same as he treats the janitor, and because they're people, right? And we are when you become a leader, you are now developing people. That's your product. And so there's a way to do that. Everybody's a little bit different and they respond to different things, but there's definitely things you should not do. And then, maybe not everything we talk about is going to apply to your specific environment, but maybe you could tweak it a little, make it your own, or find a way to fit it into what you're doing.
I've mentioned Warren Buffett a few times. That's going to happen throughout this process because he is somebody I look up to. As far as leadership goes, there's a couple of other guys that I follow pretty religiously. One is Simon Sinek. He has some great literature out there on leadership. His whole thing is pretty much leadership. So we'll attach a couple links down below of some books that we mentioned. Eric Thomas is another one. He does a lot of general type leadership type stuff. Inky Johnson is a former football player that was involved in an injury that really changed his life, and his story is incredible. But then ultimately, for me, this guy's on the top of my list. It's Dr. Wayne Dyer. He's no longer with us, and he has a psychological background, which has what my background is as well. But a lot of the stuff that he talks about is leadership, is being a better person and being able to be a better person for other people, not those self-interest. I'm not always interested in myself. And that carries over from business and career to family and to all aspects of our life. But I know you have some people that are or some books that you've maybe read before that you think is really helpful as well.
Just to add to that list, Franklin Covey is very well known for their, very formal kind of training on many different aspects. So I'll be using some of that. I'll be using a lot of different techniques and strategies and other things that I've looked into. Nothing that you couldn't find out there on your own. But what I've done is I've gathered a lot of this and taken the pieces that I've liked out of it, kind of try to put it together for you to maybe save you some time.
And we appreciate you doing that.
But that's what I like to do. That's what I like to, I'm trying to help us all grow. I learn things in the process of it that I can use. So I think it benefits us all. Now, I would like to talk about what to expect and what not to expect here. So you mentioned it before. I'm not here to, bash my previous company or coworkers or anything like that. I have friends that still work at companies that I worked at before. I helped to build those companies. I don't want nothing but the best for them. So, if you were, hoping to hear things like that from this, you're going to be disappointed. Okay, but what you can expect from this is first of all that I'm not going to say anything profound. Plus, I'm a simple man with poor grammar and about a fourth grade vocabulary. So even if I said something profound, it wouldn't sound like it. But I'll just be repeating a lot of these things that are out there, these different strategies, these different thoughts and training and other things. I've learned it, and I hope to be able to break it down and simplify it and really put it into maybe real life situations where you can apply it, and hopefully we can all learn from it.
You kind of mentioned it before, but would you consider yourself sort of self-taught? I know a lot of it comes through experience, but you have you have some training, I'm sure, as most companies do provide some training on some of these things, but and I'm sure you've had mentors that you look up to and you've learned a lot from, and I think those are super important to have those people that you can reach out to. I know in my own personal journey, I like to think I'm a humble type person. If I don't know the answer, I hope I know someone who knows the answer, know what my limitations are. I think that's an important piece of it too.
Oh, absolutely. And those are the things that you have to work on, give more effort to. If you have a weakness in an area, either you need someone on your team that can fill that weakness, or you got to work to try to fix it. A lot of what I have learned has been through experience. It's been through, going out there and doing research and stuff myself. I definitely have had formal training, whether it's through my company, which took a long time before we got there. I was a leader for a long time before that ever came out or that was ever offered by the company. But really, I would say one book changed my life when I decided to become a leader. Hopefully, we can link it down here. So maybe you can, if you want to, you can buy it and maybe follow along with some of our lessons coming up. But it was Everyone Deserves a Great Manager. I'll give you a real life example of what happened to me. I was a manager, maybe the supervisor, maybe I wasn't a manager title yet, of a department. And I came in every day flying by the seat of my pants. There was no vision. There was no path. There was no strategy. I came in and we deal with whatever problems we have today, and we go home, we feel good about ourselves because we got them solved. And at one point in that time, I had a good employee that decided to leave the company. And it made me reflect about, why is that person leaving the company? How is that person leaving the company going to affect the company? How can I replace that person? How can I have prevented that person from wanting to leave the company? Honestly, after a person leaves, and this was a high-level person and everybody recognized it, they have a little exit interview. And after they had that exit interview and after this person left the company, the president and the HR manager came to me and wanted to talk about some of the things that person had said in the exit interview. And I don't even know what all they said. It wasn't my focus. But the first thing I noticed about me is I became defensive. And when you're defensive as a leader, it's wrong. Okay. It's either you didn't do it right and you know it, you don't think you had influenced it, whatever reason that you're being defensive, is. I realized that I can't continue that way and I can't be successful and the company won't be successful if I continue to lose good people from this company. When I made the decision that I want to do something different, that's when I went out and decided that I need to look for some references. I need to look for some training. I need to look for some other ideas and strategies about how to do that. And that's when I found that book, and it changed my life.
So that book hit you right at the right time.
That book hit me because I was out looking for it, because I had already decided that I got to do this better. And then that was, it was an easy read. I think it's less than 200 pages. I could apply that very easily to my environment, and it made a lot of sense to me. That's what told me that I had to change my whole mindset. The most common thing that I hear people say is like, in a leadership position, is this is me and they're going to have to figure out how to work with me. That's the absolute opposite of what you should be doing. Now, I didn't know how to apply that. How do you become a different manager to every person? And all these things that we've kind of touched on here, we'll get more in depth in later episodes. But how do you do that? how do I be something different to you than I am to the guy sitting right next to you? You got to know them. You got to have a relationship with them to know what they are going to, because that's really, going back to their success is your success. So how can I make them successful? That might not be the same thing for every single person.
So I'm very good friends with a head coach of a football team, and he came in as an outsider. When he got the position, the offense that the football team runs is very different from his strategy and his style of coaching. And I asked him one time, I said, when your very first year, why didn't you just change everything about everything? And he said, it's easier for one person to change than for 50 other people to change.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was pretty profound and made a lot of sense to me. At the time, it didn't make sense to me, because here he is running a system that he really maybe not fully believes in, or fully believes that it's the best thing for the team at the moment. But he took a back seat in his own, maybe self-interest, or definitely his own opinions about it, and says it's easier for me to change than for 50 other people to change.
Absolutely. And, you are supposed to be the one that has this training, that has this capacity, that has this leadership skill. So you shouldn't expect everyone else to adapt to you. You have to adapt to them.
And I will say that by year 4, he did have his system fully in.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it was a slow process, and he
had to get the right guys in the spot. You might not have the right makeup of the team yet.
And this is going to be a common word that you're going to hear a lot in business and in managerial positions, but buy-in. He had to have the team's buy-in. If he comes in as the head coach and says, we're changing this, we're changing that, well, just because you have the role of the head coach doesn't mean that you're going to be my head coach. You might have that title. You might have the title of being a manager. That doesn't mean that I'm going to follow you and I am going to fully accept what you're trying to sell me, or the direction you're trying to take me. But by year 4, he had the buy-in of the team. He had the buy-in of the assistant coaches. Again, we're going to probably talk about sports a lot on here, or make the connection to, but the middle management part of the team was the coaches. And he had to have their buy-in first, and then the players. So it was a slow process, but by year 4, the team, and he came to me, we had this conversation. He was like, it's finally exactly what I wanted. So it wasn't an easy process, and you had to have vision. He kept his vision, he kept his patience, but he kept his direction as well. When we talk about mentors, he's definitely one of those types of guys for me, because he is one that, I might drive by the facility even, right now it's like a Sunday at like 7:00 at night that we're recording this. He might be in the locker room sweeping the floor. Doesn't tell anybody, doesn't want credit for it, isn't that type of person. But the people who know and see it, they see that. They see that his car is there. They see that he's doing laundry and the stuff that he has no business doing.
They also see that he don't go tell everybody about it.
I was there all night sweeping the floor or doing the laundry or whatever. No, he doesn't mention that. And he doesn't expect anybody else to mention it too. But it's seen. It's seen, not heard. They definitely think that there's different types of leaders, different levels to leadership.
Absolutely. And I may have said this before, but every company needs leaders at every level, whether you have the title or not. And I'm going to talk about this in some of these things that we go over. I'm going to try to address leadership at all 3 levels. And in those 3 levels, like number 1 would be the person that doesn't have the title, or you're the go-to person, or maybe you're the lead of the department. Okay. And now this is somebody especially that is a peer to the other workers that worked alongside with them, that this is the person that has to do anything that he's going to ask somebody else to do. Right, he's the person that will sweep the floor. You don't expect the owner of the company to sweep the floor all the time, right? But this is this is the level of leadership where you're showing by example. So that's our first level of leadership. The second one is going to be like a supervisor. So you might be a supervisor over a department, or you have the title. You're not doing all the the daily production work all day, every day, but you probably have middle management. And then the third type of leader is more of the upper management, more of the, manager of multiple departments, someone who, maybe reports up to the president or, the executives. And so I'm going to try to hit something for every level. So no matter what level that you're on, maybe you can get something out of that, as we go forward. When I talk about leadership, level 1, 2, and 3, that's kind of what I'm referring to.
And we talk about leaders in a very general sense. Leadership is not position. leaders can be the janitor. I know the janitor is taking some shots here tonight, but it can be anybody in the company, and companies that we've worked for before. I think we've seen it throughout. And if you're listening to this and you've made it this far into this podcast, I'm sure you have as well. I'm pretty excited about this series. It's something that we're both passionate about.
Yeah, so, we're probably going to wrap this up here, try to keep it short, try to keep it within bite-sized, digestible pieces that you can maybe apply right away. So lesson number 1 is you have to make up your mind. You can't control everything else that happens around you. You can't always control the company's decisions or, what your coworkers are doing or all that, but you can control yourself. And number 1 is you have to make up your mind that you're going to be a better leader. Listen to this might be a first step. Going out and buying this, a book or material. I'm sure there's audio books if you don't like to read. I'm sure that there are things on YouTube that you could go and search and look for. So there's all this material out there that when you make up your mind is available to you and for free.
So we're going to follow this leadership series throughout that book and several others as well. But if there's something specific that you're hearing us talk about that maybe you're struggling with, we're also open to ideas. We want to hear, what areas that our listeners are in and what position that they might be in, or they might need some help, or they want to hear us cover a certain topic. We're certainly open to that as well. So leave a comment in the comments and let us know which direction or topic you'd like to hear us hit on. But yeah, this has been the leadership series of the Wellness Investors. This is part 1, just the introduction. We'll be back with you guys here shortly. Thanks a lot, Wack.
Thanks for listening.